Hi and welcome again to a new video on the HCBP channel, your one-stop resource if you're an SME, an HR department of one, or if you just started your career in HR. In our last video, we have seen how we can look at the vision, the mission, and the values of the organization and how we can look at aligning our HR strategy with these three important basics. Today, we will pick up where we left off from last time and we will see how we can pick from specific strategic statements or goals our own HR goals and see how we can align our efforts as HR to support the organizational strategy. So without further ado, let's dig back into our example.
Now moving on to the first point, which is focused manufacturing, sales and after sales in the UAE for 2018-2019. What does that mean? This is a hint, this is our cue that we as HR professionals we need to make sure that the vision, mission, and values are implemented to the absolute best, to the optimum quality in the UAE. So we're not getting distracted with future expansions. For now, our main purpose is to make sure that we deliver this excellence in the UAE. So we're focusing all our efforts. Our number one priority is the UAE market and the UAE operational facilities. We can worry about the rest later. So we know for the coming 2 years, we have time to establish the right processes, the right procedures, the right policies, acquire the right talent, develop this talent, and make sure that we have potentials, high potentials, who can move on to these new expansions that we'll be discussing in a minute and take over the operation in our new operational countries. So again, for us as HR, we're focusing on developing our talent, acquiring the right talent, developing that talent, making sure that they have the right amount of trainings, making sure that they have the right amount of understanding of our initiatives around sustainability and safety, and build this excellence for the current operation, which is in the UAE. This is our main priority. Moving on to the second point, by Q2 of 2020, manufacturing facilities will be built across KSA, Kuwait, Oman, and operations will commence in Q2 2020. So here, we need to understand that we're going into 3 different new market entries. So 3 new market entries in 1 year. This is a lot of work. A lot of work. We need to make sure that whatever we established the prior years in the UAE, we adapt that to the labor laws of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Oman. We need to make sure that whatever contradicts the local laws, the local legislation, we work around it. We find other ways to achieve the same result, or if we can't, we need to drop it. And if there's a risk to be highlighted here to the management, this is our opportunity right there to say, hey, listen, so and so that we have implemented here in the UAE will not work in KSA. We just can't do that. It could be something around localization, like in the UAE, maybe we have the leverage to have expertise exported from the West to look into the technology. For example, we get technical people from Japan. In KSA, we might not have the same leverage. We might be forced by local legislation to have the expertise from within. And we might have a problem that these expertise might not be available in the local market. So what is our plan? What are we going to do? We need to operate with local talent, but we don't have this talent in the market. So this is, for example, when we do early recruitment, strategic recruitment, and we bring potential people on board earlier, maybe a year earlier, get them trained in our facilities here in the UAE up to the required level, up to the required standard that we want, so that they go and open. Maybe this is one workaround. Maybe there are other workarounds. Maybe we can do contracting. We don't hire people directly. We hire the local talent. when we hire experts. If we have the budget for it, we hire experts from outside, from Japan. They go on contractual basis and they develop the local talent, and then they take over. We plan a transition over a couple of years. Maybe this is another approach. So this is where we need to think about things like that. And then the disciplinaries. How do we implement disciplinary actions in the UAE is different from how we implement them in Saudi. How does this impact our policies, our procedures? What are the do's and don'ts that we can do here in the UAE and that are not allowed in KSA? This is when we need to think about all these things. Things like gender mix, nationality mix, sources of talent, all of these. This is a lot of hard work. So we need to have our due diligence done properly before we operate in these countries. And our second Q in this particular point is Q2 of 2020, where the manufacturing facilities will open. And here's our second Q, which is Q3 2020, we need to be operational. So that's telling us that from the time the facility is ready, the project team delivers the project and the building is there, everything is checked, and the facility is in an operational condition. This is when we need to get everyone on board to do the required trainings, getting people in to the facility to get the requirements and build the team over there, so that by Q3 we will commence operation. So again, this is something that we can take from this sentence, and we can plan our year accordingly. Now, moving on to the following point, Sulb aims to quadruple its output by end of 2020 while maintaining the same overhead through reliance on latest technology, operational excellence, and minimum downtime. So quadruple the output by 2020. We need to be mindful of a few things. Now, what we're saying is that by Q3 2020, we will have facilities operational in 3 countries in addition to the UAE. So we have 4 operational facilities. Well, not necessarily 4 operational facilities, but we have facilities operational in 4 countries. And with this expansion, be it we have like 6 new facilities, 8 new facilities, or maybe just 4 new facilities or 3 new facilities, the company aims to quadruple its output. So produce 4 times as much as we currently produce in terms of our formwork, while maintaining the same overhead. So our staffing ratios to our revenue, to our top line, they need to be consistent. We cannot go over our current levels. So this is our guideline right over there. And how do we aim to achieve that? Through reliance on latest technology. Again, we need to have people who are savvy, tech savvy. They know how to use the latest technology. So the company will acquire the latest technology. We need to have the right people to operate this technology, which is more effective, more efficient, and can help us reduce our actual overhead. We need to have the right maintenance teams behind this technology to make sure that it's operating to optimum levels 24/7, 365, and that's how we achieve our minimum downtime, because we do our regular maintenance, we do our preventive maintenance, we do our checks every now and then to make sure that everything is operational to optimum levels. And operational excellence, which is the way we do our jobs, the way our people do their jobs, their commitment, no distractions, the working hours are the working hours. So this is how we aim to achieve the company's target by quadrupling its output by 2020 without exceeding the overhead guidelines. Sulb will seek to become ISO 9001 certified for its management practices in Q1 2019. Again, this is something the company would want to do to show the world its commitment to quality, that we follow management standards, international management standards, and we're certified. What does that imply? it implies that HR need to have their bits together. We need to have processes that can be ISO certified, because ISO certification requires certain processes from HR departments to be done up to a certain standard and to be practiced. This is what ISO auditors do before they come and certify you. So you have processes that you need to look into. You need to have your policies in place, obviously, and you need to have detailed processes explaining how you implement these policies down to the detail. And you need to be sticking to them, not just like, yeah, I have a policy, but I do whatever I want, or I have a process, but doesn't matter, I do my thing. No, you need to follow your own processes. This is how you get ISO certified. So again, ISO certification requires HR's involvement to ensure that HR as a department has its policies written, has its processes written and approved, done in a certain format that is ISO certifiable and followed to the letter. So again, this is one part where HR needs to be mindful, and this is one area where HR can contribute to the strategy. Moving on to the fifth point, Sulb aims to acquire Hadidi Industries, its only main competitor in Bahrain, by 2021. So what that means is that the company, the strategists in the company, they've looked into the competition. There's nothing important happening until 2021, and this company, Hadidi Industries, will remain the sole competitor for Sulb until the year 2021. And we would assume from what we can read here that Hadidi is doing well. And how would Sulb acquire Hadidi Industries? It means Sulb needs to be at the top of its game. It means Sulb needs to have the better expertise. It needs to be on a higher market share across the region. It needs to be a conglomerate that is recognized, world known, so that it's compelling for Hadidi Industries to think that this kind of acquisition would be the right decision for them. So this should sound like it is in Hadidi's best interest to be acquired by Sulb. How do we get there? Again, HR has a major role to play. HR needs to look into what Hadidi Industries does. How do they do their own recruitment? What are the kinds of calibers they have? What are their salary scales? How competitive are they in the market? How are they positioned? Which percentile in the market? What are some of their talent gaps, or what are some of Sulb's talent advantages over Hadidi? All of these things HR need to look into, and how would these cultures fit together if there's an acquisition? What kind of things do we need to look into to integrate these two cultures? What does Hadidi Industries stand for? What is their vision? What is their mission? What are their values? Are they aligned with ours? Is this the right acquisition in terms of culture, in terms of everything? This is a big task for HR to go there and do its own research and come up with the recommendations and see how it can help Sulb achieve its strategic objective of acquiring Hadidi Industries. So it's never too early to start. We have 3 years advance notice, and we need to get on immediately, because the due diligence for such an important merger or acquisition has a lot of details, and usually companies for that, they actually hire consultants to do the work. But again, it doesn't negate the role of HR at Sulb to do their own due diligence and validate the results of the consultants. Moving on to our second to last point, Sulb will refurbish its current facility in Al Quoz industrial area, which means back in home country, the UAE, in 2021 to become the largest facility across the UAE with double the size and triple the production capability. So what does that mean? Let's analyze this a bit. We're saying we have an existing facility, we have existing operational people over there, and we're going to refurbish that facility. Now, refurbishment in any way, shape, or form requires, if we're talking about a major refurbishment, which we will assume is the case in here, we will shut down parts of the business. Hell, we might shut down the whole business. You never know. Depends on how aggressive the timeline is for this refurbishment and the end result that we're looking for as a result of this refurbishment. So again, these are questions for HR to ask. How is this going to, are we going to close the whole facility? Are we going to close parts of the facility? What are we going to do with the people? We have people working there. We have expertise. What are we going to do with them? Do we have places where we can place them? Maybe in other facilities? Do we give them paid leaves? Do we agree with them to, work for a certain amount of time and then take their leaves on a specific date? What is our thought process in here? How will we help the company to retain its talent and at the same time not get overloaded with salaries of people who are literally just doing nothing, going around? So this is one area for us to think about. And then we're saying we're doubling the size of the facility and we're tripling the production, which means this implicates that we would probably need to hire more people. So what are the people? What are these new production capabilities that we're talking about? Are they the same lines? Are they new lines that we want to introduce? Are they the same expertise that we require? Can we go to new channels? Do we go back to the same channels we used before? And we're saying double the size. So this area will have new machinery, and if we have triple the production, we'd assume that this is new machinery. And probably our existing staff, they don't know how to operate this new machinery. So again, what is the plan with our existing staff? How do we train them on using this new machinery? So all of these things we need to take into consideration, see how we can play a role in the bigger picture. And last but not least, Sulb aims for a steady margin growth of minimum 6% year on year and 20% growth by the year 2020. This is big. So these are not small objectives. Some of the best companies out there, they have a growth of like 5% year on year. So 6% is not a small amount. It's not too aggressive, but it's not a small amount of growth on the top line, or actually the margin. I'm talking about the margin here. So again, 6% growth year on year, minimum steady growth for the coming years until the year 2020, where we expect to see a spike to 20% year on year. This is huge. But again, if we go back to the second point, the year 2020 is when we will have the KSA, Kuwait, and Oman operations live. So we have 3 new market entries, and we have 1 quarter actually where all this will be operational. 2 quarters actually. So we're saying Q3, which means July. So from July to December, in the year 2020, we expect to achieve a growth of 20% versus prior year. This is big. And this requires HR to have the right people, the right talent acquired and ready by the time this facility is operational. Because the slightest delay here from HR in acquiring talent will have an adverse effect on the revenue that is projected here. So we need to make sure by the time, so 1st of July, everybody is on board, trained, and ready to go into the action, produce results. And for that, we have a whole quarter. Usually companies don't give that kind of headroom, but what to say, Sulb is very generous. So they've given us 3 months to get everyone on board in the facility, super trained, super ready to start producing at optimum levels by July. So again, achieving this growth of 6%, we need to make sure that we have acquired the right talent, we have retained the people we needed to retain in our facilities. We need to have our top talent on top of their game, doing their best, and we need the new talent to be even on top of their game as well, and integrated into our facilities so that they can produce the results that we want them to produce. So how do we train people? How do we acquire people? Which markets do we get them from? All of these questions. How do we retain them? All of these things we need to consider to be able to help Sulb with their 5-year strategy. So again, these are some examples. I thought this would be a better way to just dig deep into the action instead of just like, standing there in front of you and you just seeing me. I think here we have enough data to look into things and analyze a bit what's happening and see how HR can feed into this strategy and fit into the picture and aligning its own strategy with the company's strategy. So again, as a quick revision, the vision, the mission, the values, and the company strategy is what drives the HR strategy. And going through everything in the mission, vision, and values, and going through the strategy itself of the company, this is how we can draw our own strategy, conclude to our own strategy, and align ourselves with the business, put timelines, put plans for the year, the next year, and the next until we achieve that goal. So that's about it, for example, on Sulb.